Hey guys, basically to start out module three, for me, just to, I guess, kind of give some background going into um, the Brown versus Education of Brown versus the Board of Education, the 14th Amendment, um, and the Plessy versus Ferguson 1896. The 14th Amendment basically stated that no state shall deny to any person within its dictation the equal protection of the laws. Um, and Basically, Linda Brown was a young girl that lived in Topeka, Kansas. That basically her family was kind of sought out by a kind of a black activist that recruited them to try and integrate their daughter, Linda Brown, into a white public school that was in her neighborhood, juxtaposed of her having to drive miles away to attend an all-black school. Um, so that basically was the background information. Um, and basically, her dad goes to the school principal's office and talks to them and tries to get his daughter right transferred into that school, and basically she's denied. So they file a lawsuit against the Board of Education of Topeka, stating that basically it was just unfair and kind of discriminatory that she couldn't attend that school. And either way, her case by itself didn't get that far. But as a couple years passed and more of these cases came up, it was brought to the Supreme Court's attention that this was kind of a topic or something that needed to be discussed at a Supreme Court level, right? What are the effects of segregation on public schools on a national scale, right? So you had a guy by the name of Thurgood Marshall, who was a lawyer for the NAACP, who basically within the trial said that segregation in public schools basically made the 14th Amendment, basically saying that that's the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is, if there's black students that don't want to be segregated, they shouldn't be denied or punished for trying to go attend these schools, right? And also too, um, yeah. So basically, the um, the the judge, Earl Warner, said that he was a big part in this because at first there was someone that was taking a long time to make things happen, and when Earl Warner stepped in, right, he kind of just said that segregated schools were not equal and could not be equal if they continued to be segregated. Um, and I think the objective was just showing basically the struggle, right, that blacks had to go through in order to make things happen, right? I mean, you see that it took years for them to make progress, and it would never change on a single case scenario. If you were the first, scenario, right? We talk about Linda Brown, right, or one of the first. Um, it didn't matter, right? There had to be constant, kind of accumulation of situations similar to hers that started to kind of gain hype, right? Along with um, the movement, right? The black activist movement and segregation movement, and it started to gain traction, and that's why it was brought to the Supreme Court's attention. So I think it just shows the struggle of how things get done, really, and how things change for black people is a long, grueling process. Um, yeah, so that was kind of my findings and my conclusions um, of those readings. And I mean, I guess the narrative was that obviously, like I said, from the beginning, black people wanted to have equal opportunity, right? They wanted to be in the right schools that would give them a fair chance to develop, you know, um, their children, just like white people are getting these opportunities, right, to attend these schools that are equipped with sufficient um, you know um, teachers and supplies and things like that, right? So then we move to the busing, right? And you see them in the busing scenarios. Um, a lot of people were against busing because they thought it was forced. It was forced integration, right? We talk about, and they talked about the high school, West Charlotte High School. Was one of the first high schools to do busing and also to integrate um, this school, right, with black students and white students, right? So at first it was a 60-40% ratio of students, right? 60% white, 40% black. And obviously at first it was a transition. There was ups and downs, there was conflict, but eventually it smoothed out, and it showed great benefits not only to blacks but also to whites in their success in education down the road, and their ability to function in society, um, you know, and just be professional, and also to kind of be able to maneuver around not only whites but blacks as well. Yeah, so that's kind of the points that were brought to my attention, right? It was just the benefits of the integration and the busing had on everybody socially and as a community, right? Like I said, it had its challenges, it had its ups and downs, but ultimately, it helped, a lot of people, and it helped those students. And basically for me, I mean, that what I learned from that is, integration and diversity in any situation, not just education, but in places of business or sports teams, in all walks of life, right? Diversity is important. Not only blacks and whites being together, but other cultures as well. And it only helps. It can only help. It won't hinder. And the last reading was basically talking about the accumulation and the basically the family, um, the inconsistencies and downfalls of the black family, right? And talking about how 1/4 of black families are um, led by um, or dominated by the female, or as well just a single mom, a single parent home, right? Just their mom there, no male figure in the household, and showing that the effects of that has on black males and how they um, carry themselves and enter the world, and ultimately the the family foundation, right? It talked about in the reading that the family foundation is crucial to how the child, right, is going to grow up and see the world, right? How their family situation, that's how they're going to see the world. That's how they're going to react to what they're faced with, right? Once they get out into the real world on their own, right? Because that's their upbringing, right? That's their grooming. That's what they know. That's what they've been trained to think, right? And how to react, and just how to socialize, and things like that, right? So it's very important that the family is a strong foundation. And obviously studies show that the percentage of strong black family foundations was very, very small, right? But um, also too, on the flip side of that, it also mentioned that even though there's so many um, downfalls or struggles that blacks and the black family face, um, blacks and African Americans have found a way to um, still thrive in many different areas in society, um, even though there's faced with so many challenges, right? And all the challenges have many different solutions. So it's definitely difficult, right? And it's like I said, it's a slow process and it takes a long time. But um, what I learned about the narratives about blacks in that last article was basically no matter how many challenges that there are, they're still gonna find ways to um, survive and also to flourish, right? I mean, there's many successful black men and women, right? But I guess for how many successful, very successful or successful black men and women that there are, there's many more that are on the flip side of that, really. And that's what I got from Module 3.